Today on Fight Insight podcast, we will have Lucas Hammond, who made his debut at FLA 16. Plus, we will have Benjamin, Mr. Alaska Bennett, fresh from Dana White Contender Series. Tim, what are we waiting for? Hit it! Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Fight Insight podcast.
Boom! Right off the heels of FLA 16 rain. It was an incredible weekend. Oh my God. We've got a guest from that event. He is a gentleman that I met for the very first time. He is a man from Cape Breton, Nova Scotia. He represents the team out at Sprawl or Brawl MMA. He made his amateur MMA debut on the card, Rain, and this man was a standout. Bring him in.
Please welcome Lucas Hammond.
Hey, glad to be here.
There you go, Lucas, from out on the east coast of Canada, my friend. How are you feeling after the big win?
Pretty sore, honest to God. This fighting stuff's hard.
Yeah, it's not the easy thing that you thought it was going to be.
No, I thought I was just gonna go there, get a cool knockout, look how nice and clean. Next thing I know, I'm fighting.
Now, Rain, Lucas and I had never met before, I don't think. And let me just tell you something. So I'm standing out on the dock. We're out on the pier on the ocean, right, where we were doing the weigh-ins. It was the coolest friggin' event to do the weigh-ins there, Lucas. I think that's the first time they've ever done something like that. But boy, oh boy, was that a cool thing, eh?
Yeah, it was interesting for sure. Kind of cold for it. Late September outdoor oceanside weigh-ins.
Yeah. With your wearing your little undies on the pier.
FLA shorts. They didn't allow the undies no more.
No, they did not. Yeah, no, they did that. Here's a couple of photos from the event, though, Rain. So these are a couple of photos that I got off of Lucas's Instagram there. So there he is squaring off against his opponent, Nathan Moriarty. Of course, there's Derek the Cat Clark, one of the co-owners of FLA. There's on the deck. You can see me there on the left-hand side when I was hosting the weigh-ins. And, of course, there's a good shot of him landing a strong jab to his opponent there. Now, Lucas, the one crazy thing that happened, Rain, never happened to me before in my life. I'm calling up Lucas for the weigh-ins. Lucas gives me a fist bump.
Whoa, that's amazing.
It was very cool. And then you know what happened, Lucas? I went on YouTube to find it because I'm like, this is one of my greatest moments of my life that a fighter comes up and fist bumps me during the weigh-ins. They were showing the screen of you and your opponent during the fist bump.
Yeah, they were out angling you. You weren't even in the shot.
Rain, they missed it. But it doesn't matter. It's locked in this memory. Lucas, thank you for doing that, man.
Funny enough, I only do that because I saw some other fighter do it years ago, and I thought, oh, dang, that was cool. So I always run up and I fist bump the refs. I fist bump like the officials.
Yeah, dude, it's cool, man.
We're here to have fun, have a good time, get things going, right?
Yeah, man. No, it's cool. So that was a very cool moment, Rain. But okay, so Lucas, man, let's get to know you. How old are you, my friend?
Oh, I just turned 22 this month.
Okay,
wow.
22
really
years old.
Yeah, just turned 22.
Good man.
Cape Breton Island, the place to be, apparently for MMA.
Born and raised?
Raised but not born. I was born just in Halifax, but got back here when I was probably 4 or 5 years old. All my family's from here and listen to me talk, so you hear my voice, you'll hear that. You know what I'm about.
Nice. Now, here's the thing. There were a lot of fighters from Cape Breton, right?
Oh, yeah, plenty.
And you guys were screaming for a card to be held in Cape Breton, Nova Scotia. Has an FLA card ever been held in Cape Breton? No.
Not in FLA, but back in the day, they used to have like pro MMA fights here beyond my time. But like they existed in the 2000s, so they say.
Nice. And so you and a lot of the Cape Breton fighters on that card were clamoring for a Cape Breton card.
How
crazy would that be, my friend?
Oh, it'd be beautiful not to drive 3.5 hours to like my buddy's truck just like this, so I can actually just roll out of bed and be like, all right, just like a training session, we can go fight.
Nice. That's awesome, man. Now, Cape Breton, you're at the gym Sprawl or Brawl, SOB. which I love. It's a great name. Tell us about the gym there, man, because, of course, former guest of the podcast, friend of the podcast, Sarah Wilson, she trains out of there as well.
Yeah, man, she came down a couple years ago, and she's just added to the atmosphere, added to the training ever since, her being a high-level jiu-jitsu competitor and all that.
Yeah, of course.
Justin McKenzie and Wayne Jenkins, for the most part, run the show, Wayne being the man in charge. It's his gym after all.
Yeah.
Wilson's a mastermind who knows, has all the connections, knows who's who. So that way when we make up matchups, Wayne talks to him, they talk to each other, they come to the fighters and say what's up.
Nice, man. And so how long had you been training before you decided, yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go for a fight?
Oh, I've wanted to fight since I was 13 years old before I even trained in a gym. I saw UFC and I thought that stuff was pretty cool.
Nice.
But I've been training down in Sprawler, bro. I started there at 15 years old.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
7 years and you finally make your debut. But you were saying before we started that you teach the kickboxing, or you're a striker by nature?
Yeah, well, I started originally with boxing. I actually had 4 amateur boxing bouts when I was about 14 years old. Started boxing at the age of 13. Found MMA, and I was like, I'm going to go do this. I love kicking stuff.
Yeah, forget not only being able to use the hands. I want all my weapons, man.
I love boxing, don't get me wrong, but I was like, man, this jiu-jitsu stuff's pretty cool.
Very nice, man. Now, Rain, the guy that Lucas fights, Nathan Moriarty, this guy looks like he could have rowed a boat into the pier.
Oh,
He
really?
looks like a Viking, tatted up, all on his shaved head. He's got like the long hair, crazy looking dude. It was a fantastic fight, man. Lucas, you're like a handsome dude. You almost look like a Drew Dober type kid, you know. And, and you know, you got the jawline and everything. But like, I mean, I gotta ask, man, is there any bit of fear or nerves when you see a guy across from you that looks like a total animal? Like, and the nicest dude too, Rain, but I mean, looks like a scary friggin' individual.
I don't know. Optics can be deceiving. I've beaten in the gym and throughout the years. I've met some scary and looking people, but it was always the little nerdy guys at the jiu-jitsu mats that are going to strangle me and make me feel like I'm made of stone for the next 3 days. But he was a class act. He was the nicest fella you would have thought. He came to check up on me after the fight in my locker room. I made sure to tell him that he hits like he got bricks in his hands. But he did punch some hard.
Yeah, it was, I mean, Rain, the fight was incredible. Like, all the fights on that card, the FLA 16 card, were fantastic. 2 female fights on the card, of course, including none other than Sarah Wilson, who gets a victory, right? Like a big rear naked choke victory. Holy moly.
Quick
like,
one, too.
Wow.
Yeah, really, really good. All the fights on the card were incredible. I do want to say, all the people that have appeared on this podcast, Lucas, won their fights. Ben Leese, the Mummy Abdelaziz, and Cam Nelson, and Sarah Wilson. So
I'm in the winner's circle, I guess.
yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. This is very good luck for you coming on this podcast now moving forward. But yeah, we were 4 for 4, Rain. I don't know what to say. But yeah, man. So what is next for you now? Because, okay, so you start off, here you are, 22 years old, get your debut victory in a good, hard-fought fight, right? Split decision win, correct?
I knew it was a decision. I don't remember which. I just remember winning it.
Maybe. Okay. But anyways, here's the thing. I do think, in all honesty, that going the full 3 rounds is really great for you, man, because it gives you all that experience in the cage, all that emotion, the back and forth, the multiple rounds where you have to stop and start. I feel like that's a lot of experience that you get there. If you had gone in there, knocked the dude out in 10 seconds, right? Fantastic, amazing, highlight, great. But it's like, it almost doesn't give you a lot. You know what I mean? And I think it was when I was speaking with Abdel that he had said, and we've spoken with UFC fighters and everything that say the same thing. When you fight and you win so quickly, it's like you don't build the confidence almost in a weird way, because you're like, well, what happens if I go longer? What, like, would I be able to do that? You've done that now in your first fight, which is very, very cool. What's next for you? Where do you want to go from here? Where do you want to take this?
Well, my plan has always been to be a pro fighter since I was young, so I'm just going to keep slugging away, training hard. Whenever the opportunity comes knock on my door, take as many fights as I can, win as many fights as I can, Lord willing. And, keep being me and enjoying life, training and fighting, and all
Nice.
that.
Nice. So
Get on a decent podcast the odd time.
Hey, we're here for you. Whenever you come calling, we'll let you on, my friend. We'd love to keep supporting you and keep promoting you. Of course, promoting the brand, man. There you are wearing the FLA jacket like a true professional as well. And I love that. Rain, we always see that. Rain does the cage announcing at Up Next Fighting, which has a big event coming up this weekend. Anytime we have an Up Next fighter on the podcast and anytime we have an FLA fighter, they're always wearing the gear.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that, man, because those two organizations are very focused on like the branding, and the fighters respect that so much, which is very cool. But I mean, the gear that you get is so nice, like the outfits and stuff.
The finesse kit is quite nice. Those new fight shorts I got in the other room, those are nice too. Can't wait to do some training in those.
Yeah. Awesome. It looks amazing. And Rain, look at this. I got a nice, see, this was my call out card. Like this was my weigh-in card. I was going to call out Lucas's fight, but they gave me, bam.
Nice.
The nice little thing so that I could hold. So it looks very nice, you know? So it's not like I'm just holding cue cards. Very nice. I love this. This was beautiful.
They're good with the production value. I'll give them that.
Yeah, beautiful, man. Lucas, how long before you want to fight again? Like, what would be the ideal time for you? Obviously, maybe you want to enjoy Christmas with the family.
Next week.
Oh, okay.
They call me up next week. I'm back in there, you know.
So there's but in seriousness though, there is an event in November. If they were to call you, would you take that?
You know, it always depends on. I'm not in the game of taking dumb matchups and getting some guy who's 17-0 and you know crushing me my second fight ever in the FLA cage. But it all depends, man, who they present me with. November would be cool, but for the most part, I think November's spoken for.
Oh, really?
Those FLA events, people want on them, man. It's people at the floodgates.
Nice. All right. Well, spoiler alert: the matches have been apparently made, right? We didn't know, but
I don't know, but I'm just kind of assuming.
Right. Well, there's always people, and the thing is, there's always people that drop out and stuff like that. But I do like what you're saying, man. You're being smart about it. You're like, hey, I need to make sure that the matchup seems right, that it seems fair, and it seems like that I'm going to be well prepared to be able to go in there because obviously you want to go 2-0.
Of course, ideally. At the very least, want to have good fights.
Nice, man. Now, who helped you get here? Like, who was a big support to you? Aside, obviously you shout out the gym, but behind the scenes, like, who helps create Lucas Hammond?
Well, my family, of course. They always got my back.
They're supportive of this? They're supportive of you becoming a pro fighter?
Well, they didn't have an option, really. They're just sort of tagging along. It was going to happen regardless. They're just, them being okay with it is a plus.
Yeah, okay. Nice.
My girlfriend, of course. My girlfriend, she's lovely. She always gives me my time to train while still making sure I'm not being stupid.
Nice.
And the team at SOB, man, those guys, like, I could call them at any point in time for anything I need, and they'd be right at my side. Like, it really is like a family. Specifically, there's a couple of younger fellas. Now, it's weird how it changed. I used to be the snotty high school kid learning how to fight. Now I'm the old experienced vet teaching these high school age kids how to fight. But some of them showed up for me, helped me put in double and triple days leading up to the fight, man. They did a fight camp just as much as I did a fight camp.
Yeah. No, that's beautiful, man. Now, I mean, you seem like such a nice young gentleman and a very like well put together man. Were you a bad kid growing up? Were you from the wrong side of the streets and getting in trouble, or were you always just a good kid? Like, what were you as a young man? Now that you're the old man,
getting there.
Yeah.
I was a bit of a rough one. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Okay.
I always got in fights at school and stuff. I wasn't okay with kids ever disrespecting me or being rude, so. I talk, they talk. Next thing you know, you're throwing hands. That's growing up in Cape Breton Island for you, right?
Yeah,
it's a rough place. Rough things happen.
Yeah, well, there you go.
But I'm happy I was able to get away from the drugs, make sure I stay sober, and keep my head on my shoulders, be a nice, proper individual. Thanks mostly to helping my team at Sprawler Brawl at a young age.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. It's crazy how we hear that story all the time, though, right, Rain?
Mm-hmm.
Like with how martial arts is saving people and stuff like that. And Lucas, you don't have to, tell us that story. I mean, Rain's told us stories about how she's slapping kids around in kindergarten and whatnot. So this is one bad chick as well. You know what I mean?
I believe it. She's got it in her eyes. She's a fighter.
Yeah, exactly.
You look like a commentator. She looks like a fighter.
Oh, there you go. We all have our roles to play, Lucas.
Important ones.
Yeah.
Important roles.
Yeah. So, Lucas, the team is great. Rain, what did you want to ask this young man?
Well, I guess from one fighter to another. Wait, so Lucas, so you made your amazing debut. I always want to ask an amateur fighter, once they make their debut fights, when was that moment wherein you realized, oh my God, this is really happening? Like, I'm really making my debut. Was it when you were walking down to the cage? Was it when you were hearing your name announced? Or was it when you were actually fighting?
It was about an hour before the fight. I didn't have an ounce of nerves throughout fight camp. It seemed so distant in my brain. It's the weirdest. I've competed in about 30 times total in martial arts outside of MMA, between judo, jiu-jitsu, boxing, and kickboxing, that when the MMA, it was just felt so distant in my brain. Even when I was a week away, I was like, it still felt so away in my brain. But then like an hour on our way to the event, I was like, oh, I'm going to throw up. This is happening. Oh, God. Then in the back room, you start moving around, talking to the other fighters. I'm like, yeah, it's because I belong here,
Yeah.
You just got to tell yourself, you're like, why did I want to come here?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, because I'm going to go out there and put on a show and win. You got to sort of remind yourself what brought you to the dance,
Yeah. That's crazy, man. Rain, it's really crazy. Like, both the promotions that we represent, Rain, like, and the production value and everything that they do, it's so professional, it's so crazy. To see these young guys making like their MMA debut. Now on this card too, I had it noted that both you and your opponent were both making your debut.
Oh wow!
So it was so crazy. But like, Rain, you don't know if you turned on the fight card at the moment that Lucas and Nathaniel started fighting.
Getting dropped.
It's like you're watching a pro fight, though, right? They're not wearing any gear. There's no freaking pads. There's no shin guards. There's no headgear. There's no nothing. This looks like a pro fight of any pro fight caliber, and the caliber fighting was so impressive. Lucas, yeah, it's crazy, man. Like it was really, really good. Lucas, I want to ask you a question that we ask all the guests of the podcast. It's something that my mom used to ask me almost every day of my life growing up. So I want to ask it to you. On a scale of 1 to 10, how happy are you?
Well, I always try to be pretty happy. So 10 out of 10. I got nothing to complain about. Life's good. Won the fight. I'm feeling good. I'm nice and healthy. My opponent's nice and healthy. I don't wish ill will against anyone. Everyone had a good time.
Yeah. That's good for you, man. You're a good man. You're like happy, healthy. I really like that too about you. You've talked a few times about you and your opponent speaking afterwards and stuff like that. That's one of the crazy things too that people don't realize. Like you two guys go in there, put on one hell of a fight, but so respectful towards each other, both before the fight and afterwards. Oh, yeah. You know what I mean? Like it's pretty crazy, man.
I knew right away that he was a right on fella. Because walking up to test his weight on a scale, we sort of bumped into each other instead of being all awkward. He just went like, "Hey man, how's it going?" Shook each other's hand. How you feeling and all that stuff. And he went weighed himself. Then we were squaring off. I'm like zoning out, smiling, after like flexing on the stage, throwing my shirt, handing myself to the commissioners and all that.
Yeah.
I look up. I'm like flexing, squaring off, trying to look all tough. I look up at him. He's just. I was like, please, relax, man. Like, we're not fighting right now. I almost it felt awkward, It was interesting.
No, Rain, you don't understand. Like, when you get to look at this dude, scary, like, really scary dude. Like, if you were at nighttime walking down the street and you see him coming towards, you're finding another alley to walk down. Like the guy, but nicest of gentlemen.
Like he's a sweetheart.
Well, don't call him a sweetheart, but he's a good guy.
Oh, he punches hard, but he can be a sweetheart and still have hands. Clearly,
yeah.
Nailing me the first 15 seconds of the fight.
Yeah, it was a great fight, man. I'm glad that you're happy. I'm glad that you made this debut. I'm glad that you're part of the FLA team, man. I really want to see you again. I want to see what's in your future and all the things, and with Sprawler Brawl as well. That team is a great team, and I really do hope that we get a card in Cape Breton. I think it would be beautiful. To be able to go out there. Rain, I've never been out to Cape Breton, and so if we have a card out there and I'm lucky enough to be invited back out, it's just another opportunity for me to explore the beautiful East Coast of Canada. So
it is a beautiful island, lots of nature, lots of scenic routes and trails for all the officials and media people to enjoy when they're not watching the fights,
Yeah, for sure, man. Now, is there anybody on the FLA roster that you know that's in your weight range? You fought at welterweight at 170. Is there anyone on the FLA roster that you think that you would like to fight?
Well, I think call-outs are kind of disrespectful myself, especially I'm in no position to be taking names quite yet. I'm not the champ. I'm not quite that level, but there's lots of good opportunities, lots of good fighters. So you never know who you'll meet in the octagon, so to speak.
All right. No, hey, man, good on you, right? But you're open to all contenders. You're open to all challenges as long as it's the right thing for you. So that is great. Lucas, before we let you go, is there anything that you wanted to say to the fans, viewers, and listeners of the podcast?
Just train hard, do your best, and tune in, watch me fight when I got another one on.
Yeah, for sure. And follow you at Lucas Hammond CB, obviously for Cape Breton, at Lucas Hammond CB on Instagram. Follow him now. Get on the train now, because you want to say that I was with Lucas Hammond from the start.
There's some guys at the event taking selfies with me saying that, like, when you're in the UFC, I'll have this picture. So who knows? You might be that next guy to get that picture.
You made a great impression. That's why.
Yeah,
I'll try my best.
Yeah, definitely. And last thing, before we let you go, we said before the podcast, no nickname yet. So people send in some ideas for Lucas Hammond. But you did say one that someone had given to you, kind of, that you were,
Jesse Hopper gave me the nickname Lucas Mayhem Hammond. And I was like, that got a good ring to it. I might just need to go with that one next time.
It does. And your fight was quite chaotic. So you did bring the mayhem. Lucas Mayhem Hammond. I like it. Play with it. I think it's good, man. It would look good. It would look good.
You get back to me. I'm sure you'll think of something.
Yeah. We'll think. We'll play with it. We'll think of some ideas. But Lucas Hammond, thank you so much for joining the podcast, man. I really appreciate it. We will see you again. I'll see you on the East Coast again. Everything good. All right, buddy.
Congrats again.
Thank you very much. Have a nice
See you later, buddy. Take care. Bye-bye. All right, Rain. That is Mr. Lucas Hammond. Really good guy. Really, really good guy. I'm so glad. I'm so happy for his success. What a great guy. You can tell that he's a good individual, but he's a damn good fighter. Like, holy moly. 0-0 fighter, Rain. You expect them to come out and, have jitters or have, nerves or anything like that. You don't see anything. This guy looks like a consummate professional. He's out there looking the part, fighting the part, right? Like, crazy. I love it.
That's good. It's always great to see, fighters making their debut.
Yeah. And like the sky's the limit for this kid. You know what I mean? Great team behind him. And then he shouted out Jesse Opper as the guy that was giving him the nickname. That's Sarah Wilson's fiance. She's newly engaged. Jesse Opper. And he's the guy has his nickname is forever long. Like it would fill past the screen. He's Jesse the Opper Whopper Glace Bay Brawler. Jesse Opper. It goes on forever, Rain. It will not fit on the UFC t-shirts. I'll tell you that. Friends of the podcast update, we already talked about it. So there were several fighters, obviously, at the FLA card that you've seen on this podcast. Abdelaziz, you missed him. He was with me and Bam Bam, Sarah Wilson, Cam Nelson, and
Ben Leese.
Who, geez Louise, put on another crazy performance. Then he cut an amazing promo in the ring, but I couldn't hear it all. But all I know is he said at some point, there's some fat people out there or something. I don't know what he said, but it was funny as heck. I think he said, like, he's a character, man. But he had a fantastic fight. I had a wonderful time, Rain. Holy moly. Tapper Tag 3. Insanity. Rain, I had my notes on the fighters. I had no time to say anything. They were tagging in and out, poking each other out. It was insanity the whole night. It was fantastic. That was a great card. So thank you so much to Fight League Atlantic for putting on another fantastic card. The next one is just around the corner in November. Rain, for our friends of the podcast, we've got Slim Reaper, Ray Rowland. He's fighting this weekend with you
Yep, at UNF 20. Also, Anthony the Bully Romero will be defending his UNF bantamweight gold, and Jesse Strader will also be fighting this coming Saturday at UNF 20. So please, please, please go get your tickets at upnextfighting.com. We're out here in Los Angeles, California, this coming Saturday, September 28th. It's the historic show for UNF. So please go check us out and say hi to me if you see me there.
Free autographs to the first 3 people only. After that, it's pay per autograph. So get it quickly when you see Ringside Ring. Ringside Ring, will you have a new sparkly jacket?
Yes.
Oh, spoiler alert, new sparkly jacket on its way. That's awesome. Are you excited? Obviously, this is going to be a great card. And yeah, so many friends of the podcast on that one. Jesse Sweet Generie Strader. Don't forget Sweet Generie. Yeah, very excited. And definitely after the event, hit up whoever looks the coolest, whoever seems like the best character, grab them and say, yo, podcast next week. Right? Yeah, for sure. Don't mess this up. Next week on the podcast as well, if you're here because of Mr. Lucas Hammond, thank you so much. And probably you're in Glace, and you're probably in Cape Breton. So thank you so much for watching the podcast. Soon on this podcast, we're going to have another guest, which is very exciting. And I mean, hopefully, pray to God this guy comes, because I've got questions galore for this dude. And but next week on the podcast, we have a returning guest. We have not seen him in over 2 years. He is one of the funniest people on the planet, but definitely one of the funniest people on the UFC roster. It is Chris Beast Boy Barnett. He is an incredible heavyweight. Rain, do you know who he is?
No.
He's the big chubby guy that when he wins, he does the jumping somersault. Like, he literally looks like a sumo wrestler.
Oh,
you
really?
Gotta go check out the highlights. Look, people are getting mad that you do not know who he is. He's a character, but he has not fought in some time. He's finally making his return to the UFC after some time off. I'm not sure why he's been away, but he's been away. And we hope that he will be kicking ass as he always does. He's like the most flexible dude. It's crazy. And he's a big heavyweight. His nickname used to be Huggy Bear. He fought a lot in like Japan and Asia. And he was like a total character there. And then he comes over to the UFC and he's just put on a show after show. He fights Saturday, October 12th at UFC Fight Night, Royval versus Tyra. So that's when he's next up. And I'm so excited for this dude. Man, he is going to be crazy. He's a great character. But Rain, I have to do something quick before my next guest gets here. Normally, we try to do Timmy B's Conspiracy of the Week. And I try to make it something new, right? Last week, we had the Noche stuff. Which technically was my conspiracy, which Ricky Urquidez really like, hey, he proved that Tim is not crazy. So that was good.
In some aspects.
But look, if you're crazy about everything, right? Like if you're crazy, you're generally crazy across the board. As long as I'm 50-50, that's not bad. Here's my thing. Okay. I have been calling out goddamn President Awesome President Awesome Zadie, where the hell are you? Get on this podcast. He has that War on One FC hashtag War on One, and I want to talk to him about it because I've got a whole bunch more stuff. I've seen him doing other interviews, but they're very polite and respectful, and I feel like they don't let him get enough into the dirt that I want to get. Okay, One FC has been playing games, and now they're pissing off. As we all know, my wife is South Korean, and so I cheer for all the South Korean fighters. One of my favorite fighters is a girl named So-hee Ham, okay, or Ham So-hee from South Korea. She's a atomweight there. She's really cool, okay? She goes to One FC. She's kicking ass. There was some drama where I feel they pulled her out of the Grand Prix because they did not want her to win. I really felt like they did something where they pulled her out because suddenly she had a finger injury. And then suddenly she wasn't in the Grand Prix when she had advanced beyond someone that we thought was maybe one of their favorites. That was always weird to me. Then she finally comes back. She lost her title fight against Stamp Fairtex, okay, who's incredible. But then Stamp now gets injured. And she's injured to the point where she has to, she can't defend her title for some time. ONE FC now puts up an interim title match. Obviously, you should go to Sohee Ham, who just lost against the champion, but had like been beating everybody. Instead, they put it up. Denise Sambuanga, who's Filipino, she's been on our podcast before. She's going to come on again, and especially now because you're Filipino, this is great. But put her up, and they're putting her up against Alona, whatever, this girl, who has had 2 fights in ONE FC, and she lost her last one, and she hasn't fought in 3 years. This is bullshit, Rain. So here's some pictures. This is from Ham Sohee's Instagram, and she says, I've received news about Denise versus Alona fighting for the interim championship through some sources. I'm the number 1 ranked atomweight in ONE championship. I beat Denise twice and also beat Alona outside of ONE. Both fighters lost to me. I think it didn't make sense for them to fight for the belt when I'm here ready and waiting. I've been waiting for an offer for a long time. Right? Then Alona posts on her thing saying, it doesn't matter who you won, it matters who you lost to. You lost to Stamp, with whom I had 2 fights. You lost to Stamp. The organizer and manager should decide on fights, not the athlete humiliating themselves and asking for a fight. And then Hamzong replies, didn't you lose to me and to Stamp? Rain. The matchmaking makes no sense, and Hamzong is sitting there waiting for the title. It's very weird, the matchmaking. Why do you pull this girl who, frankly, is not that well known in ONE FC, has 1 win back in 2021, is coming off a loss? So is Ham Sohee. She just lost 2, but she lost to the champ in that title fight. Now, if that champ can't go on because of injury, yeah, give her the next shot and let her fight another contender. She's still ranked number 1. It's crazy, Rain. I'm telling you, there's some drama there. And now here's another instance of a fighter coming out and calling BS on ONE FC.
It's very unfortunate because now you're going to have fighters trying to look for, I guess, greener pastures, right? Once they're able to.
Yeah, but it's crazy. But I mean, what do you think about this? Where, like, you know, we have Lucas Hammond here today. We had Slim Reaper last week saying nothing but great things about the promotion, helping build it up. What do you think this does for ONE FC when all your fighters start talking crap about your organization? Like, how bad is this going to get for them?
I mean, it's really bad because now the fans will see it. And then, you know, you have like fans who are very faithful to whoever they're supporting. And if the fighter decides to go somewhere else, then there goes that fan base who used to support, you know, ONE FC, for example. And if this fighter fights somewhere else, then there goes, you know, X number of people, right? Not watching ONE FC anymore because their favorite fighter went somewhere else.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is, too, you have to think, like, if you're the promotion, it's like, if all these fighters start talking bad, who's going to sign with you?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why will fighters now, like, you know, here's a young Lucas Hammond and he's looking for an opportunity. ONE FC says, hey, you know, why don't you come fight for us? They'll be like, you're going to lock
Although, I mean, some people might look at it as, you know, yeah, this person might have been treated poorly or things went south with this fighter, but then, you know, an opportunity is an opportunity for another fighter.
But you can't afford to get locked into these contracts. This is the problem with ONE FC. Like we've talked about this before, and this is what I would like President Awesome to get on here and talk about. Because when you lock these fighters in these contracts and you don't let them fight their way out of them, you're now stuck. You can't go fight elsewhere. You can't do anything. Yeah. Sage Northcutt. Where's Sage Northcutt? Sage Northcutt. Someone should do like an alive and well check on this kid because he's not fighting anywhere. Where the hell is he? He's not even on social media. So like, what's happened to this kid? How does this happen where these fighters, like, they don't fight at all and you're on this contract? Ham Sohee has not fought since. I don't think it's been that long. Well, September of 2023.
Okay, just last year.
Okay, but 1 whole year you're not going to fight? You're a professional fighter fighting for one of the top organizations. If you listen to Shatri, it's the number one organization in the world that nobody's heard of. But, you know, one whole year and you haven't fought at all, and then they make a title fight and you're not in it. I don't know. Not cool to me. She's 37 years old. How old are you going to be? Like, you know, before you need to retire because of age, or, you know, like how long are you going to be before you can't really compete at that highest level too? Rain, it's tough. It's really tough. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just very unfortunate because I know there's not really a lot of, I guess, options, right, and opportunities for fighters to actually, you know, fight at a, you know, high level, right?
Yeah.
So when you hear about stories like this, I think it's kind of like discouraging, right, for fighters. Like, you know, I hope, you know, no one feels like, okay, where am I going to go if I can't make it to UFC? You know,
that's what I mean, right? We hear about these crazy stories, PFL, Bellator, everywhere we go, we're hearing these crazy stories about these organizations that aren't treating fighters right. Here's the thing too, so people that don't know, contracts can be different as well, and so that's why I'd love to speak to President Awesome as well, if he understands what the ONE FC contracts are like. Because in the UFC, and it's so funny, I was talking to a UFC fighter and they were like, I don't even know if that's in my contract. I'm like, you should know what's in your contract. But normally it's for X number of fights and there's no time limit, but in the contract it says we have to offer you X number of fights per year. So that allows you to get out of your contract. Jenna Bishop, friend of the podcast, same birthday as Timmy B, she told us that the Bellator contract has an end date. It doesn't say how many fights they're going to give you, but it gives you an end date, which means even if they don't offer you fights, you know, okay, fine, by January 1st, 2026,
you're free to go somewhere else.
I can now go somewhere else, right? If things don't go. I don't know what the ONE FC contracts are like. But all I know is Ham So-Hee is sitting here for a year not fighting. She's the number one contender, and they book a title fight without her. Bullshit, Rain. Like, ridiculous. Like, it's crazy. Where is it? You know what I mean? So, anyways, President Awesome, get on this podcast. Rain, you tell him, because he might listen to you instead.
President Awesome, come on. You follow Fight Inside Podcast. You followed me on Instagram. Come on, let's go. Join us here.
Good. That wasn't as aggressive as it might, you know. You should have like bullied him into it, you know.
Bully?
Yeah, bully him in. Now, speaking of being a bully, we have a man coming up now who bullied his way to a victory at Dana White Contender Series. All right. This man, I've been following this man for a long time on Instagram. I liked him, what I saw of him. I liked his look. I especially liked his nickname, Rain. Like, his nickname was badass. He was most recently seen on Dana White Contender Series, Season 8, Week 6. Go look it up on Fight Pass and watch this fight. He secures a big victory over what I guess was a very hot prospect, but he's a native of Alaska, so he froze that dude out and put that flame away. Unfortunately, he did not secure a contract. Now he's 7-1 on a 4-fight win streak. Where does he go next? What's the plan? I want to find out. I want to talk to this dude. Rain, bring him in.
Please welcome Benjamin, Mr. Alaska Bennett.
How you guys doing?
Mr. Alaska, Ben, man, like I was saying in the intro, man, I've been watching you for a long time. I was so happy to see that you're getting your Dana White Contender Series fight. Now, what did you think of Dana White Contender Series as a whole before this fight, and has that changed now?
What I thought about it before and what I think about it now?
Yeah.
I think it's a really smart marketing strategy for the UFC because, I mean, you got to sign someone. You want to keep an inflow of guys coming onto the UFC, but it's like there's no really way to market them before they get here, and you have to pull footage from all these other promotions. And it would be better if they just had a feeder that just brought, like, they could test guys out and then they could sign them right there and potentially weed out guys that are not stars and guys that are possibly stars. And in their rankings, that's what they're looking for. And I think it's really smart. I still think it's smart. I thought it would be something I would never want to do because when it first came out years ago, it just seemed like kind of risky to go out there and essentially have happen just what just happened. You have a good fight. Maybe the opponent has a certain style, or you go out there and it's a little boring, and so you don't get signed. So that was something that I've always just been like, not super interested. It wasn't like I was getting a ton of offers to do it, but it was something that I was just like, that doesn't sound like it would be good for me. But when they made the offer, I'm just like, I don't care anymore. I want to just fight guys, and if Contenders is the next step to get me to the UFC, then that's what I'm gonna do. And that's what I did. So
nice. And I appreciate it, man. I appreciate that you gave me two answers there, because one, you said, hey, from a general perspective of what this thing is, I get it, because it's meant to like help the fans get to know who these people are. Mm-hmm. And then on the flip side, you said, well, as a fighter, I didn't really like it because, it's very hit or miss kind of thing, right?
Right.
So I appreciate what you're saying. Can I be really honest with you, Ben? Like,
of course.
Odds are Dana White's not watching this podcast, okay? Now, I hate it, dude. I hate it. I hate Dana White Contender Series because it's crazy that like you bust your ass. You're 6-1, right, on the local scene. You're doing your thing. You're the champ of Cage Fury. No, you were the champ of what organization?
I have a bunch of belts. I don't know.
But okay.
Promotions from different places. Yeah.
Okay. So you're doing your thing though. You're 6-1. You're doing well. In the olden days, before Dana White Contender Series, they might look at your record and go, "Hey, here's this Ben Bennett. He's kicking ass on the local scene. Let's bring him in." Now instead they do this thing where Dana White Contender Series, they bring you in, and then it's like a job interview, the worst job interview of all time, because you're kicking ass. And here's the thing: if you lose, I don't know what happens to your career, dude. In all honesty, like
that could be a big fear,
Yeah, like that's really tough, man. Oh, there you go. Look at the professional getting some lighting.
I have all the lights. I just didn't know how I was gonna set up. So
no, you look good. But it's crazy, right? Because if you lose, holy crap, I don't know what happens to you. Okay,
yep.
Now you're in an even weirder situation, and you go out there and you win. And dude, I'm watching your fight because I'm a Mr. Alaska fan. And you go out there and you do what you need to do. You kick ass. You take on this guy who, I don't know, is he a hot prospect? I'd never heard of him, but the commentators were speaking about him as if he's the second coming. You know what I mean?
He's very talented. He's a very talented guy. So as someone that he deserved all that, so.
Okay. But
I mean, I felt like
you take him out, but you take this dude out, Ben. You take him out how you should take him out. You know what I mean? Your game plan was solid, dude. You wrestled him down. You drained him out, beat him up, and then in the third round, now that you've got the better of him, you've scared him into thinking, "Holy crap, this guy's going to take me down." And Graham, then you start just striking and landing shots. Yeah, you did everything right, man. I know you were very emotional afterwards and all that, but what's your general feeling now? Like you're kind of a week out from it now, like.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of moving parts when you're in a sport like this and you want to be on a high level. So it's a variant of a few things. One, I think that if that was a fight in the UFC, they wouldn't be thrilled about it, but I would be getting blown up like, wow, you did an amazing job. Like you went out there and you controlled somebody, and people around be like, hey, work on your ground, do a little more damage on top, do a little more of this, straighten out some of the things in your striking. So that was a little bit disappointing to kind of have like such a lull after I went in there. But I mean, there was a lot of up parts. I'll talk about some of the up parts. Like one, the last time I was in there with a guy that tall in that exact similar style, I was knocked out. And so and that was back in like 2020, I think, or 2021 against Trey Waters. He's in the UFC now. I think he's 3-0 in the UFC now. And it was like the last 10 seconds of the fight. I won the whole fight, and then I just got caught at the last second. So in this fight, I felt like I broke through that barrier because the 3 or 4 fights right after that fight, I was fighting very shy in sparring, just because like it's kind of a freaky thing when you get knocked out and you kind of have to re-find yourself. And part of the reason I got so emotional after the fight is because I felt like I like shed that demon where I was like, I'm okay. Like, I'm a talented guy. This guy is not going to knock me out. I'm okay. And so that's something I feel like moving forward is going to play a huge advantage in my favor, is because I feel like I'm past some of those demons, you know, that creep up and you're like, fuck, like, I don't know if I can take heavy shots. And so I would say that's in my past now. And that was a huge breakthrough for me. And then there's other things too, like there's a lot of positional stuff that I can work on. Essentially, if you wanted to get like a soundbite segment, it would say like, I feel like everyone's right. When Dana White's like, I felt like you lost the fight. I don't know about that, but I would say it's like, message received. I totally understand. My next fight, I'm coming out here and I'm going to, knock guys out. I'm going to finish guys. I'm not going to consider it a win unless I finish guys. And I feel like it's my attitude and my responsibility, if I want to be on the high level, to just be like, bet. All right, bet. I'm going to let all the, there was comments and stuff. I'm going to let all that sink in and drive me, because I feel like I'm a super smart fighter as far as like knowing different things. Like, for instance, I went out there and within like 15 seconds, I'm like, I don't have his timing. Got to take him down. And so it was just like, boom, straight to the takedown. And then I was like, so I feel like I understand how to win fights, but now it's like, okay, that's really important for high level fighting, is to know how to win fights. But now I have to shift my training and my attitude toward a mindset of, I'm not trying to win fights. This isn't, basketball, or this isn't wrestling even, where you're scoring points. That you're trying to stop another human being, separate consciousness from them, or put them in a position where if they were to continue, their life would be at risk in a way. So it's just like a mindset shift that I'm like determined to make, because I feel like the combination of that with the way that I can already fight extremely smart, I can get takedowns, I can stop takedowns. I'm a lot better defensive wrestler than I am offensive wrestler. So I feel like after the show, I was a little bit down, but then I let all of it surge up, and I know the answer. It's like, bet. I understand like what the mission is here. Like, I understand the mission. Like, I get it now.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's the only way I can go about it. When I took my last loss years ago, and I was on like a 30 fight win streak before that, my only thought process was, okay, I have to grow from this. And everyone's messaging me, I'm so sorry. And I'm just like, dude, like, I want to be on the highest level fighting. Yeah. I need these lessons. Like, I don't want to go out and fight that exact fight on the UFC level and be like just another guy. Like, if I fix the mistakes I made in this fight and move forward, I can be one of those guys on the high level. And thank God, like, I did come away with the win, because I felt like I was the better fighter just overall. And I'm not going to disservice that series of actions by complaining about it or being down about it, or saying, well, this went wrong and this went wrong, and oh, I didn't strike as much as I wanted in camp, because all the things are real that you think, but it's like, what ones are you going to channel? And I feel like I'm just going to channel all this frustration about not getting signed, frustration about losing some of my killer instinct over the years, and I'm just going to be like, bet, I know what the mission is, and I'm going to just chase that feeling until, relentlessly, until it I get a turn in my career. I feel like if I go out there and stop the next guy, that might be a call. If it's not, all right, bet. You don't think I'm ready yet? That's fine. Go out there and stop another guy. And I know I'm capable of it because I'm super hardworking and have a good fight IQ. And I just think that all the stars are aligning. I think that, like, once I got some space from this, of course I was disappointed, but I'm just like, oh man, like I know the mission now and I'm on my path. So
Ben, you are a super positive dude, man. Like I really like what you're saying and I like the attitude. I'm a very grumpy man and I have a lot of
I have that side of myself too, but like this is not the time to be that person of myself. So
well, let me be the grumpy side to you. You know what I mean? Like, here's the thing, dude. Our bantamweight champion right now, Merab, right? He doesn't finish a lot of dudes, but yet people are calling him fantastic. How about one of the greatest of all time, Georges St. Pierre, when he held the title, barely finished anybody, but yet we call him the greatest because he was smart in his methods. He was a smart fighter. He took people down. He ground and pounded them. He did what he had to do to win those fights. We weren't kicking GSP out of the UFC, right?
Yeah.
But yet, and then here's the thing too, like you get put up on a guy who like really seemed like, I mean, here, let me play this clip for you. And did you watch the fight back on Fight Pass? Did you?
I haven't had the heart to watch it, to be honest.
Okay. Do you mind if I show you a few clips?
That's normally my favorite part, by the way. After I get a win, my favorite thing to do after a win is just get a bunch of food and just sit down and just watch it over and over and over again. But
yeah. Do you mind if I show you a couple clips and I just want to highlight a couple of things? Okay. Just listen to the commentary is what I'm kind of pointing out here. Okay. This is the commentary. Now, mind you, Rain, the opponent's name is Hart. Okay. But listen to the commentary on this sequence of events. If you're listening to the podcast on audio only, you'll hear it. But obviously, come and check out the video version.
Trying to use the fence to help you get back to your feet, right?
And he's doing the right thing. See the way he's using that left arm. So by trying to rotate it to his side, he's not giving up the back because he's got the overhook.
But Hart.
They're praising the other guy while Ben is on top of him, punching him in the face, saying that he's doing the right things.
Yeah.
Ben, I was losing my mind, dude. Let me play you one other quick clip here. This is only 6 seconds long, but listen to this one. Watch what happens and then listen to the audio.
That was a fast jab a second ago, though, from Joey Hart.
I didn't tap it quick enough. What did they say?
So it's a sequence where you double jab, hook, everything kind of lands like maybe not super clean, but it's landing on him. And Bisping goes, "That's a really nice fast jab by Hart," which was like 10 seconds before when he jabbed you. Meanwhile, you're beating on him. That happened the whole fight, dude. So I'm interested then, because if you haven't watched it back, the commentary, has anyone told you that they thought the commentary was pretty messed up?
Honestly, a lot of people said the opposite, and just a way where they were saying they were like, this is what he needed to be doing, things like that.
But you're winning the fight,
right? Well, to be honest, like just the way that my mind works, when I see stuff like that, I'm just like, bet I'm gonna clip that when I get my next few knockouts and get signed and have my first win. I'm going to clip all this and I'm gonna put it into a little collage. Yeah, and I'm just gonna be like, bet.
I was just, look, like, again, I'm not lying to you here. I'm a Mr. Alaska fan from a ways back. So when you're getting this opportunity, I'm like, I don't watch Dana White Contender Series a lot, almost never. I only watch it when there's someone that I know is going to be on the show, right?
Yep.
And I only watch that fight, to be fair. So, but seeing it, I'm like, okay, they're obviously like looking for that guy kind of thing. Like it seemed like this was the guy, and the commentary was so biased. I was like, I hate, and we see this even in the pros, right? We've seen Felder be a little bit biased towards some people sometimes, or DC, right? If you're from Dagestan, DC's in your corner, dude, like 100%, right?
Yep.
But so I was interested in that, but I'm like, okay, but this guy's doing it. And then here's a comment that's happening during the fight, and of course this turns out to somewhat be true, and you've spoken about this a little bit, but I want to talk to you about this because this is about how you win. And you've already talked about this, but here's this by Laura Sanko.
So the question is, that's a great way to win a UFC fight. Does it get you a contract?
Yes. Yeah.
Dana White's Contender Series. It's a different animal.
100%. And even
Did you hear that?
Yeah, I was able to hear that.
Okay, so Laura Sanko during the fight, and that was, I think, into the third round maybe, and they're like, okay, this dude, Mr. Alaska, is winning this fight, but is this going to be enough to get a contract? And in my head, I'm watching this live going, yeah, he's beating the ass of the guy that you guys think was the next thing. He's played the perfect game plan, and now we're in the third round, and they were talking about the strike differential, but in the third round, you start picking it up, start landing a bunch of shots, right? And then when they would do the slow-mo at the end, like they're showing all the shots that you hit clean, very beautiful striking. He was bleeding, you weren't, right? Like,
yes,
I don't think so.
That is one thing that, so I don't know, some of these things I'm just going to keep to myself, but this is a good opportunity because it slides right into what you're saying. Even on the feet, with as uncomfortable as I was on the feet in this fight, I still felt like if this kid, if there's a fourth round or something, like, I'm going to finish this guy. Like, he was cracking me and he looked pretty, but I didn't leave with a scratch. My calf hurt a little bit from, I guess I got kicked. And I haven't watched the fight, but when I was out there, I could feel his spirit breaking, and I could feel him like becoming a bit defeated. And he might have a different opinion. He's a really intelligent guy, super hard worker. But I know I've been fighting forever, and I was like, oh, I'm going to get this guy out of here. Yeah. Unfortunately, it won't be in this round probably, but it's like if the fight continued, and because I felt him breaking, he started bleeding. He was bleeding out of his mouth. He's bleeding out of under his eye and stuff. And
he lost his mouthpiece too at some point, I remember.
He did lose his mouthpiece, and I normally would be even the type of guy to be like, grab your mouthpiece. But my coach, I heard him, he goes, fucking crack him. I was like, all right, I guess I'm going after him. And the ref didn't seem to notice, so I was like, whatever.
Yeah. Hope you've got a good dental plan. I don't know. This is coming.
But I mean, one mistake I feel like I made is I just you can see behind me here. I have a lot of I track all my training, and there was just a lot of slots missing for kickboxing and boxing and things like that. And I've been noticing, because I have these big map planners that I track everything I do in camp, just for my own info. And over the last few fights, I've been doing less striking. So for a 12-week period, or maybe 10 weeks that I was in camp, there was 98 slots open for whether I'm doing bag work or hitting mitts and things like that. And I just that just wasn't the main focus. I think I hit 3 kickboxing classes and hit the bag 3 or 4 times, and just it wasn't and mainly it's because I was just focusing on the wrestling side of it, because I do have a little bit harder time taking down guys as tall as him. So I kind of focused my area there. There was no lack of effort, and there was no lack of anyone wanting to coach me. It's just I prioritized that, and it's one of the first fights I've ever really prioritized. Most of training revolved around getting the takedown, securing him, stopping him on the ground, slowing him down so that he can't have those quick twitch. And as soon as about 15 seconds into the fight, I was like, yeah, I feel it. My timing isn't quite there. And it kind of broke my heart a little bit, because I was just like, fuck, dude, I'm going to I just was disappointed that I spent so much time focusing on wrestling him and didn't focus as much. But I mean, then you could say, well, maybe he would have caught you on the feet. So it's just this kind of catch-22 issue. So,
but Ben, and I appreciate what you're saying, but again, I'm just going to say GSP. Okay. But if here's the reason why I pulled those clips and stuff like that. And I don't mean to make you feel bad at all, because look, I want to pump you up as much as possible, because also I want to say, I think you did 100% the right thing. I also feel like if this kid wasn't some sort of prospect, which it seems like to me through the commentators' speaking points, it seemed like he was. If this was just watching two individuals fight that we do not know, that are appearing on the Contender Series, and I've got no background information, I feel like different commentators would have been like, Mr. Alaska kicking ass, doing the right thing. He's taking that taller, rangier fighter down. He's wearing hell. Now he's in the third round. Now he's putting on the pressure. He has dominated this fight from round to round. But it wasn't. The story was different. And I feel like, man, you did the right thing. But going to Laura Sanko's comments and also speaking to what you were saying, like, okay, now I'm going to crack motherfuckers. Okay, now I see what I've got to do. But why do you have to change your game plan when you're a 7-1 pro doing what you need to get dudes out of there? Shouldn't the tall guy learn how to wrestle a little bit better? Shouldn't the tall guy learn how to stop the takedowns? Shouldn't he learn how to get up?
Yeah, I will say that leads to another kind of funny thing. This is such a horrible, like, it sounds like an excuse, but honestly, it did throw me off in the fight, because all my visualizations of the fight, and I felt like everywhere that I capitalized and where the fight would have been more exciting is if I got those takedowns and he was able to pop up. Like, those exchanges of him getting back to his feet quick is where I really wear people down, because I re-trip them down, I turn around and I crack. But he couldn't stop any of the stuff I was doing from what I remember. And so I was just kind of stunned a little bit. I genuinely was like, oh shit, do I let him up? I was like, he's really long. And I was like, crap. So there was a bit of a pause. Like, it's such a stupid thing, but it genuinely confused me a little bit, because my training partners over 10 weeks, they got so good at, like, I would take them down and they'd pop back up, and I would try and fire on the break. Yeah. And it was just a lot more like up and down. And then because you did do that a few times. There was one time when you popped up and you cracked him a couple times. Yeah, I was expecting it to be up and down, up and down, up and down, and then next thing I know, 4 minutes goes by and I'm sitting on top from what I remember, and I'm just like, and like, I was like, God damn it, I'm not getting a fucking contract. Just because I did research the show a lot, and I knew exactly what they were looking for, and it just sunk in. I'm like, yeah, I'm not getting a contract. I was like, well, I'm sure as fuck winning this fight. And then, there's other stuff too. Like, if I wanted to in the third round, I could have held him down the whole third round too, and possibly gotten a submission or found a way to do some damage there. But my coach came in the second round. I told him, I said, thanks, I'm not shooting again. I was like, I was like, sorry, bro, I'm not shooting again, because I was like, and then when we got back to our feet, you spoke about the cracking motherfuckers comment, as well as like shedding, like I said, like the demon of being nervous when I fight and of getting knocked out. As that also went away, as I was cracking him, and this actually might answer some of your questions about switching my style. Like, I kind of remembered why I got the sport. And those moments when I was cracking him were like brought me back, and I'm like, man, I miss this. I miss like not playing the game of fighting as much, where it's like, I do think I'm very good at it. Like, you can take someone down, control, move, crack, move. But just like going out there with the intention, like, I'm trying to hurt you. I'm not trying to score points on you. And I think that in the big round circle of fighting, that'll come back around to help me on high level, like very high level fights, being able to score and move and score and move. But I just like fell in love with fighting on that fight. And it was just such a good feeling. And so that's part of where the emotions came from, because I saw a few comments kind of addressing like, well, you wrestled the whole time. I thought you said you like cracking people. And I was like, well, I remembered that in the last round, it kind of all came back to me. I'm like, oh my God, this is what I love about fighting. Because that was my 80th appearance, whether it was an amateur or pro or kickboxing or boxing. So
wait, hold on. 80?
Yeah, that was I think my 40 or 41th MMA fight, and that was my 80th time like going into a combat, whether it was boxing or kickboxing.
Wait, How do you have 41 MMA fights? That's not on your Tapology.
It's not. I do have video of all but one.
Yeah, I want a fact checked. I want all 40 fights, man. I want to see them.
You know, one day I remember I was younger, and I remember thinking, I was like, I want to make a documentary of myself someday. So I constantly have, tons of phones, and I just was filming everything all the time.
Nice.
And
hey, do you want to take a quick photo of this so we can be in your documentary? I want to be in the documentary. I want to be in the documentary.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not like an insane narcissist, so I didn't feel the need for a documentary as I got older, but I just assumed, as I was like, I'm probably going to be something when I get older. So going to start. And also, like, part of it was, I was like, no one's going to believe any of this, no one's going to believe I'm going to fight 4 times in a month, hopping show to show and showing up with my bag and just like asking if anyone dropped out and stuff like that,
Yeah.
I remember in Vegas, I fought in a 5-fight tournament, and I think I lost like 4th round or something like that. And it was the UFC Expo, so they had kickboxing just in the same building, like across the way, and spectators walk by and they can watch people kickboxing. I just walked over there and I was like, "You guys have an opening?" And they're like, "No, like, you got to sign up for this." And then like the next morning they text me and like, "Are you serious about that?" So I'm like, I am serious. So I fucking packed up all my shit, and they gave me gloves, and I signed all the paperwork, and I did 2 more kickboxing matches while I was there. So that's kind of how, like, just little stuff like that. Or I used to live with a promoter, and he would host shows like twice a month, and it was always someone that dropped out, and they would just, whether it was boxing or kickboxing or MMA, they'd be like, "You want to fight Ben?" And they'd be, "You sure? But I only want to box him, or I only want to get in." So I just show up with my bag, and none of those are on Tapology. But like I said, I always documented all this stuff. I want to do a little collage of all the fights, like a little like sprint collage.
You're gonna need a large data plan to like upload all those fights into this thing, man. But Ben, man, dude, I'm so happy for you, man. I love everything you're saying. I love what you're doing. I think like you have the right mentality, obviously. Like, hey, look, everything that I'm trying to get you angry about, you're coming back at me with some positive stuff. So I love it.
Trust me, I felt all these things. It's just
I don't want to make you feel bad, but I'm just saying I was feeling bad not feeling bad for you, but I'm just like, what the fuck, man? And here's the thing too. I do want to go back to one quick comment. You said, "Oh, Dana White Contender Series, the very first question I asked you, you said, "Oh, the purpose of this so that the fighters can get some fans and stuff like that," right? Yo, that's the fighter's responsibility from when you're an amateur to build up your social media, to build up your following, right? Like you know what I mean? Like there's other ways to that, like the Dana White Contender Series, which, to be fair, I don't know anybody that watches it. So, you know what I mean? Like, it's not the great. I mean, so I don't know that people are all watching Dana White Contender Series.
So many people didn't understand the Contender Series. It was so funny. Like, I had so many goofy questions. I just stopped answering people. I'm like, I just put out a post on my Facebooks and stuff. I was like, "Hey guys, it's on ESPN Plus. This is the date." But still, right now, people are messaging me like, "So do you go to round 2?" Because they think it's Ultimate Fighter, right? And they're like, "Oh, so you have to fight again?" Or like, "Are you living in the house?" And I'm just like, "Oh, whatever, dude." You guys will figure it out. And a lot of people
is your coach Misha Tate?
Yeah, a lot of people didn't even know about this getting signed part. So when I won the fight, I was walking in the back and I just saw my phone blow up. I mean, it was just, and then like after he, they did the talk and I didn't get picked, almost all the same people started blowing me up. Like, what the fuck? Like, wait, what? Like, what's happening? Like, and just a lot, like the mood went like, ooh, but I'm okay with every single thing that transpired because I just think this is what I needed. I mean, think about it. If I go out there, win in that same exact fight, they're like, "You know what?" He does the whole, speech like, "Well, I wasn't impressed," or whatever, but he's like, "Oh, we're going to bring you on, give you a chance anyways." I feel like this fire I have in me, this frustration, I I don't know. I'm pretty smart. I probably figure it out, but I think just the way that it's happening is just going to be so good. Like I haven't felt this fired up about fighting in general since I don't know, maybe like middle of 2017.
Yeah.
You know, I did my 65th fight, and I remember I was just kind of like, I was like, this is like, I'm over this shit, you know?
Yeah.
Certain fights I did, I was like, I'm never going to feel this again. And like the UFC seems so far away. You got to build your pro career and stuff. And even my last couple fights, like I kind of was just thinking about what I needed to do after the fight. And I'm not talking about like, I was very there's so many things that this is going to help me with. Like one other problem I have in camps is I train to the level of the opponent. So if I see a guy, I'm like, oh, I could beat this guy with, you know, I kind of map it out like XY sessions. I don't need to do any of these sessions. I can just kind of, I'm like, the cardio, like this guy's terrible cardio. I maybe just go twice a week. And so I kind of train like that. And because I'm like, I have a life to live, you know, I've been doing this shit since I was like 18. It's like pretty confident in myself and kind of map it out. But what I haven't been thinking about is if I stop doing that and I train to knock everybody out or like to finish them, you know, because I also, along with that mentality, there comes a mentality of like, well, I probably won't get the finish, but I'll dominate this guy in every position. And that's kind of what my headspace is. I'm walking out there. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to beat him in every position, whatever. If a stoppage shows up, that would be kind of cool. But it's never really been like a goal of mine since I've been in the pros, because it's just like, if they're there, they're there. But I think this mentality switch of thinking every time I'm training, I'm thinking like, oh, they're not going to be able to take more of those shots. Or like when I'm on top, like, okay, I'm on top, but the 3 minutes of ride time isn't going to do it. I need to punch this guy. I need to make him feel pain, you know?
Yeah.
Switching my mentality like that is something that an experience like this, I felt like I needed to have to kind of, I mean, you could say you don't need that experience, but it's just where I am in life. And I'm really honest with myself, like a little bit bored of fighting, but then like experiencing that, getting the demons from getting knocked out off my back, and just kind of like a very freeing experience. Like I feel like a kid again that just started fighting, and like you can ask fighters, some never lose that, but some definitely do, where it's just not the same when you do it for a while, and it just gets kind of boring. And it's like, I'm in another fucking camp. Like, here we go again. Like the conditioning, and I've done everything to pump myself up week to week and to push through, because I'm a professional and I know how to do that. And I'm very capable of doing it, but it's so much nicer when you have a fire and you're frustrated about things and you're like, man, I'm going to fucking hurt the next guy. That is something I haven't felt for a long time, and it's eating me up inside. And they will not deny me if I go out there and I finish the next couple guys or even one, you know? And I feel like that version of myself walking into the UFC with my ability to control fights and take it where I want with my aggression. I mean, the one fight that they saw of mine that I got signed for was a fight where I was in this mode. My mom had just passed. I was like, I want to inflict pain so bad. And I didn't go to the ground with him. You know, when we go on the ground, I just stood up and called him up. And that was the fight that they saw. You know, it was like, what, 4 fights ago now? But that was the fight that they saw where they were like, we want this guy. And they're like, we love this guy, because I know what the conversation was they had, because my manager told me about it. And so I'm just like, well, I know how to access that mode, and I need to get back to that. And it's not going to be hard, especially after that experience. It's not going to take a lot of like mental effort of like every day, like you have to be this character. It's like, no, I feel it. It's genuine. Like I'm genuinely upset, and I want to go out and hurt my next opponents, you know?
Yeah, no, and I do want to say, first of all, get on the Mr. Alaska train if you're not on it already. He is at Ben_Mr.Alaska on Instagram. Make sure you follow him. I'll put it in the show notes as well for those that don't see it on the screen here. But Ben, you're talking as if you don't finish dudes. And now I obviously I don't know your 80 fight record, but I do know that in your 7 victories, 7-1 as a pro, in your 7 victories, you have 5 finishes, your 71.428 finish rate. You're not a guy that doesn't finish fights. So like when you're saying this, you know what I mean? Like if people don't know who you are and you're saying this, it sounds like a little bit, maybe it might sound to an uneducated person, but you haven't been finishing people. Dude, you're finishing people all the time. So
like my first, I think I don't it's not hard for me to go out there and finish guys. It's just, it's not something I ever think about. And I think on the high level, it's something you do have to think about. Like you do have to think about like, it's like, if I throw that calf kick, it might hurt him, but I could score more points if I did this. And it's like, I have to stop thinking that guy. It's like, fuck your calf. I want to take your leg with me. It's like, I'm not going to work a ton of head kicks. He's good at blocking them. It's like, maybe I want to throw a head kick and maybe I want to try and get a knockout like that. And, maybe I want to, keep it standing when we go to the ground and just pull him back up because I'm like, I'm going to finish him on the feet. He can't take much more of this. Why give him a rest when we go to the ground,
Yeah.
Or when
maybe,
I am on top.
Or maybe what you do is you do like a Max Holloway style and you teach him how to get up mid-fight. You're like, hey, dude, you should just underhook me here and then lift me up. And then you let him do it and then you smash him in the face and go, okay, good. Thank you for getting up. That was my plan. Ben, we're keeping you really long, and I really appreciate you staying on, man.
It's been a fun talk.
Rain, is there anything that you want to ask Mr. Alaska?
Yeah, actually, it's a very personal question. I heard how you talked about your mom during your interview after the fight. And what I noticed was when you were sitting down as Dana White was handing out the contracts, you were wearing a necklace. And please correct me if I'm wrong, but I did see a picture. And is that a picture of your mom?
Yeah.
It's really nice. Have you had
beautiful.
the chance to talk to her about what happened, right? Because I feel like it hurts when you won the fight, but then you didn't really win the actual prize. Have you had a chance to feel that comfort from your mom?
This is awkward. So my mom actually passed a little bit ago. So so.
Yeah, no. I know. That's what kind of.
No, she knows. She means spiritually.
I do know that. Yeah.
She means like
okay.
spiritually.
Okay.
Because like sometimes, like I've lost people whom I really love, and even though they're gone, like they're not here anymore, I still try to find comfort, whenever I'm like having a hard time. So is that something you kind of do too, and kind of talk to your mom every now and then?
Yeah, I would say. I don't know. I could just, my mom's voice is always ringing in my head. It's just a lot of, I'm so proud of you. Like, man, screw all these other people. Like, she wouldn't have cared about any of this. And most of her advice, if I was, my attitude I have about not getting signed is like the things that, she'd be like, man, like, I would not have taken this like that. And so that's part of my guiding force, is it's like, my mom would not be proud of me. I mean, she was always proud of me, but she would be most proud of me if I after this sort of loss, right? Because I didn't completely accomplish the goal. I wouldn't want it to back down from a challenge, and I don't think that she would never say anything, but I would also want to make her proud by being like, yeah, this isn't going to stop me. Like, none of this is going to faze me. Nothing's going to stop me. It's just going to drive me. And she'd just be like, yeah, you got this. You know what to do, Ben. You know what to do. You're super smart. Just think about it. Like whatever you think you need to do, like you can do it, and then she would remind me of all these things I've done. Like, remember when you had a hard time learning to read and you figured it out, and you started all these little businesses that made all this money. And she's like, I remember when you first started fighting. And I'd be like, all right. I get it. And she's like, you got this. She's like, don't, so yes, her voice is constantly in my head, and I'm constantly being reminded of like the kind of person I want to be. And the kind of person that I am when I'm at my best is like rising up to challenges. And this is like my favorite kind of challenge because I feel like I'm kind of in the, I'm kind of in a spot where it's like, oh, I get to have like this villain story of coming back and just demolishing the next few guys and working my way back into this position, and then having that ability to be like, what, like you doubted me, like these fights could have been on the UFC, but you let these little promotions. So I'm just really excited about the future. And my mom was the kind of person where she's just absolutely awesome. She let me do whatever the heck I wanted as a kid. I don't know if that was good for me, but we had the type of relationship where she just constantly was just like, you can do it. And if something didn't work out, she was just like, who cares? Like, you can do something else then. Who cares? And I love that attitude about her. And she wasn't super hung up on the fighting. She didn't care what I was doing. She just said, you're going to be successful at it. And so just do whatever you want in life. I mean, my plan was to go to college swimming. And when that didn't work out for me and I went into fighting, she's just like, okay, like I'll help sell t-shirts and, I'll set up the booths and do all the things you need me to do and help you market yourself. And so she just super involved parent, even though I was like 19, moved out of the house, but super involved and there for me. She would be very proud of me for like a lot of the things. Like there's a lot of like scheduling and flights and all these types of things, and that was something that she always did for me. Just like she'd be like, you need to be at the airport at this time, I'm sending your stuff over, and I'd just be like, all right, cool. And I'm like, I'm here an hour early. I'm like, she knows me, and so like just me thinking about like the advice she would be giving me, like be the airport a little early, do the things and keep track of everything, make sure I bring a backup ID and just all kinds of stuff like that. She'd be proud of me, and she always is. I have 9 other siblings, and we're all super close, and we talk about her constantly. And we always, one of the phrases that comes up constantly is, it would be like in parentheses, like mom, and then it would be something she would say. So it's like, I don't know. It's she'd be proud of me. She would just tell me to just do exactly what I'm doing and just keep going and keep chasing it, man.
That's beautiful. And I really love how you're making, her like, memory, stay alive. And I love the necklace. That's really beautiful.
Yeah. Actually, funny story about this. Probably the only thing I wasn't super cool with this whole experience of the Contender Series was I went in and I did my interviews, and I wasn't planning on talking about my mom at all, because it's not something up until recently, I don't really talk a ton about it. I give her a lot of tribute and things like that, but I don't really talk a lot about it. There's a lot of fighters that have lost their parents from cancer and things like that, and it's really prevalent. I think we have like 6 people on our team, or 4 or 5 at least. And one of my closest training partners, he lost his mom around the same time. So it's just not something that we harp on a lot. But when I got to the UFC, I did all my interviews and they were pretty much done. They were kind of packing up their stuff, it seemed like. And then she goes, how's your mom? And I said, well, she passed, like a year ago, or, a few years ago now. And she's like, interesting. She's like, hold up. And like the whole interview, like practically started over. And they just drilled me for like 40 minutes about her. Like just so many personal questions. And like, I get what they were trying to do, but it definitely took me off guard. Like she was very good at her job, because she got me all emotional, and she was asking me like, how did that feel when this happened? And how did that feel when that happened? And my training partner was all choked up because he was there, tagging along for all this media stuff I was doing. And I was just like, So I accepted it, and I'm like, okay, this is going to be part of my story now. But I definitely like wasn't prepared for that. I felt like they kind of sprung on me with that a little bit. And of course now it's like, fine, like it's part of the story now. But it just seemed very personal to like come out with like a lot of that stuff. And even my training partner was like, damn, that was kind of whack. Like they went from like, all right, we're pretty much good, to like, interesting. It was like they got a juicy piece of information, and like kind of wasn't super prepared to share everything that I shared, just because it felt personal. But it is a business, and I just tried to look at the positive side of it. I'm like, well, I've talked about my mom a little bit. Maybe this is just going to be part of my story. And I said, fuck it, I'm just going to go with it. And it will just be, I'll just be more public about my story.
Yeah.
But it wasn't something I volunteered. I'll just say that.
Yeah. And when you say she's good at her job, Laura Sanko?
It wasn't Laura Sanko.
Some other person is doing the media questions?
It was just one of the background
okay.
people. But I just was thinking to myself, like, wow, you're really good at your job, because I would have never like volunteered any of this information. Like, hey, let me tell you about my life story with my mom. It was like,
right.
It was just like led slowly into this like conversation that at the time I wasn't super comfortable sharing, but I'm okay with it now. I've let it all go. And it's like, I've realized that, okay, this is just part of being in a sport where you're in the spotlight sometimes. But, you know, at the time I wasn't super comfortable. I was actually not very happy about it, to be honest, at all. But I'm not going to point fingers or anything, because I could have just refused to answer, you know, any questions about it. But yeah, I felt done dirty just a little bit, you know, and I learned a little bit about how interviews can like make a weird turn into just kind of be a little bit more calculated and a little bit more on guard about just springing tons of information about my personal life. But yeah, that's pretty much the only negative I had of the whole thing, honestly.
No. Ben, we've kept you way too long, dude. I appreciate you so much, man. I appreciate everything that you've said today. Thank you so much for sharing so much. I do want to ask you one final question before I let you go. But before I do, is there anything that you want to say to fans, viewers, and listeners of the podcast? Anything to say before you go?
My quick clip message to everyone is message received. My mentality is shifted a bit, and either this is all going to go to a shit show, or I'm going to come out like looking like someone you've never seen before out there, because I'm going to focus on trying to do damage in my fights and absolutely just hurt people when I fight. It's the only thing I can think about now. So I'm excited to see what that results in my fights. So
yeah, damn you, Contender Series, you've unleashed a new beast. The new Mr. Alaska is coming, and it's all your fault. You could have just signed him, and he could have just, been his merry way. Ben, I do want to ask you one final question, man, before we let you go. And I appreciate what you said about your mom. My mom actually passed away 2 years ago from cancer as well.
Wow.
And ever since maybe just around after that time, I've been asking all the guests of the podcast this question, which is a question that my mom used to ask me almost every day of my life growing up. So I'm going to ask it to you, as I do all our guests now. Ben, Mr. Alaska, Bennett, on a scale of 1 to 10, how happy are you?
Well, it's a moving target, you know. I would say that being happy has not really been a huge priority, because I feel a lot of responsibility to do the things I need to as a full-grown man, you know. But I will say that it's easier to be happy when there's certain things in place. And the happiest times in my life were scenarios like I'm in right now, where I have like a very, very clear goal in life and everything revolves around it. I've maybe been missing a little bit of that purpose, because fighting just feels like, after like 10 years, it just feels like it goes on and on. If nothing big happens for you, it just goes on. And maybe I wasn't so happy, you know, but I feel like in a strange way, other than like the sadness of not getting signed and seeing certain things take place recently, I feel very happy. You said it on a scale of 1 to 10, right?
Yeah. But the answer is wherever you take it.
I would say probably like an 8, if I'm being honest. An 8. Like I said, I don't prioritize being happy very often, just because I know how bad life can get, and it's like, man, you just got to be thankful. Like, watching my mom go through cancer, it was like really shitty, and like that's hell. You know, that is hell. Mm-hmm. Like, nothing in my life is so bad to where I'm gonna be unhappy. I mean, I'm kind of a grumpy guy, but I'm not gonna be unhappy, because when I'm very cynical sometimes and can complain about a lot of things. But when I think about like, man, people have real problems in the world. Like people have real problems in the world and in life. And if you're unhappy, like sometimes you just have to get a little bit of perspective. I mean, when I think back on like the chemo treatments and like losing the weight and feeling sick and just like, dude, like the pain. Because my mom we would talk on the phone like every night for like a month for like an hour, and she would just be talking about it, and I was just like, oh my God, dude, like that is hell. Like there are versions of hell on earth. And if you're not in hell, like you're probably a mindset away from being in a version of heaven, because we have everything you can imagine on earth available to us right at this time in history. And there's just no excuses to not be happy. You know, I mean, there's my own self. Maybe I am happiest when I'm not happy about certain things, because I like having a mission and I like trying to accomplish things. I'm not very happy when I'm just, you know, but it's important to be happy. Like the frequencies in life are so much more providing when you're in a good headspace and when you're happy. You can be very happy being cynical though, you know, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like if you're very happy doing, you know, having your being your authentic self, as long as it's not hurting anybody, I say fucking run it. But yeah, I'm pretty happy right now. I'm very happy right now. A lot of people love me. My family loves me. I had probably like 300 messages across like, I haven't even opened the other Facebooks. I have 3 Facebooks, but just hundreds and hundreds of people reaching out to me, and it's just a lot of love. And I feel a lot of love from everyone around me. Like, even if people are just heartbroken for me that maybe this fight didn't work out, like just the amount of love I feel from them, I'm like, I'm okay. Like I want to like give them a hug. Like I'm okay. Like I'm okay. And I have a bunch of haters too, but man, it's like I've missed having like some haters, you know. Like I have 0 haters because I'm just not relevant until I do something. And now that I have some haters, and I'm just screenshotting these things, and I'm clipping these things, and I'm gonna put them into a collage. And when I go out and I make some shit happen for me, I'm just gonna release the beast on them. So yeah, I can't wait.
Ben, honestly, this has been one of my favorite podcasts ever. This has been one of my favorite interviews ever, dude. I'm very honored that you accepted the invite to come on this podcast. Thank you so much. Yeah, no problem. Understanding how busy you are, understanding what a guy you are. Thank you so much, man, for joining the podcast. Your answer to that question was dead on. Killer answer to that question too, man. And thank you so much, man. And you talk about all the people that love you. Fight and Sight podcast loves you, man. And we'll be following your career, and we'd hope to have you back on again one day. I pity the people that they put up against you next. I feel sorry for those guys.
Hard to get a fight, honestly.
Yeah, I hope it's not someone that we're friends with. But you know, to the next opponent, good luck to them. But Ben, Mr. Laska, thank you so much for joining the podcast, man. Absolute honor.
Thank you.
All the best to you. Rain, that is it for this podcast. It's a long one. We thank you guys for watching. Thank you for listening. Check out Rain at Up Next Fighting. Rain, cut a quick promo before we get the hell out of here.
Yes, please don't miss UNF 20 this coming Saturday, September 28th, live at Commerce Casino in Los Angeles, California. For tickets, please do go to upnextfighting.com or find us on Instagram at upnextfighting.
And Rain, if one of the fights drops out, call Ben, Mr. Alaska. He'll probably take it on a day's notice. He'll come and kill someone for free. Guys, see you later. Rain, have a good one. Bye, guys.